Hey everyone, hope you're well. And we're back with this First Samuel series, and we're looking every day at one chapter a day. And today we're at chapter 11. Now, yesterday we looked at how Samuel anointed Saul as the first king ever of the people of Israel, who had previously been ruled or had been led by judges and prophets and priests. And now these judges who had been appointed by the Lord Himself, who had chosen them, the people said, no, we want a king. Now, this is a political aspect, a different aspect from the religious, social, economic aspect that they were used to. They wanted now to be led by a human being who was independent from God, but who represented the state. So they're coming into a political era now where they want to be with the people who are around them, the nations around them, and the might and the sovereignty and the power that represents that office. They wanted it all, the grandiosity of it. The prophets, the judges, they were just normal, humble people. They didn't have any chariots and people following them, and servants and leaders appointed under them, and administrators, and all the things that would come along with a king. They were just chosen by the Lord, and the Lord anointed them for a specific season. But now a king presented more power according to the Israelites. They wanted to look powerful and to be recognized as a sovereign state and sovereign people. But whether they wanted to be led by God, the Lord, no, He felt, you are rejecting me because now you want to obey a person and not me. So the lineage of the priests would remain. And later on, we see that the priests still advised the kings, but some kings didn't want to be advised by priests. They wanted to do what they wanted to do. So, did God have an influence over them? Still, yes. Was that what He wanted? Maybe not. Because people now, their hearts were drawn to their kings and not to the king. So let's pick it up from chapter 11. And the challenge I threw to you the last time, in the last video, was, do we bow down to humans or do we bow down to God? And who are our hearts led towards? Are we subject to man more than we're subject to God? Or do we subject to man knowing that we are also subjecting to God? Or do we subject to God first and then hope that in the process we will be subjecting ourselves to man? Anyway, in chapter 11, we start to see Saul go to work. He's a king now. So kingdom means you protect the kingdom, and being a leader of your kingdom means you've got to fight. So let's go to that. In chapter 11, and I'll read it, it says, Then Nahash the Ammonite came up and encamped against Jabesh Gilead. And all the men of Jabesh said to Nahash, Make a covenant with us, and we will serve you. So wait a minute, what's happening here? Nahash is an Ammonite, and he encamped against Jabesh Gilead, which is a part of Israel. And the men of Jabesh Gilead said to Nahash, an Ammonite, that they would make a covenant with Nahash and they would serve him. And Nahash the Ammonite answered them, on this condition I will make a covenant with you, that I may put out all your right eyes and bring reproach on all Israel. Really? Then the elders of Jabesh said to him, Hold off for 7 days, that we may send messengers to all the territory of Israel, and then, if there is no one to save us, we will come out to you. So the messengers came to Gibeah of Saul and told the news in the hearing of the people, and all the people lifted up their voices and wept. Now there was Saul coming behind the herd from the field, and Saul said, What troubles the people that they weep? And they told him the words of the men of Jabesh. Then the Spirit of God came upon Saul when he heard this news, and his anger was greatly aroused. So he took a yoke of oxen and cut them in pieces and sent them throughout all the territory of Israel by the hands of messengers, saying, "Whoever does not go out with Saul and Samuel to battle, so it shall be done to his oxen." And the fear of the Lord fell on the people, and they came out with one consent. When he numbered them in Bezek, the children of Israel were 300,000, and the men of Judah 30,000. And they said to the messengers who came, "Thus you shall say to the men of Jabesh Gilead, tomorrow, by the have help." Then the messengers came and reported it to the men of Jabesh, and they were glad. Therefore the men of Jabesh said, "Tomorrow we will come out to you, and you may do with us whatever seems good to you." So it was on the next day that Saul put the people in three companies, and they came into the midst of the camp in the morning watch, and killed Ammonites until the heat of the day. And it happened that those who survived were scattered, so that no two of them were left together. Scattering. Then the people said to Samuel, "Who is he who said, 'Shall Saul reign over us?' Bring the men, that we may put them to death." But Saul said, "No, not a man shall be put to death this day. For today the Lord has accomplished salvation in Israel." Then Samuel said to the people, "Come, let us go to Gilgal and renew the kingdom there." So all the people went to Gilgal, and there they met before the Lord in Gilgal. There they made a sacrifice. They made sacrifices of peace offerings before the Lord, and there Saul and all the men of Israel rejoiced greatly. Hmm. Well, before your authority is sealed, there must be a test and a trial. And I'm sure all the people who are great leaders, and we are all leaders in our own right in some way or other, we know that it came mostly from overcoming something. We did go to battle, didn't we? And when you went to battle, you know that not everybody had had endorsed you, and some, like we saw in chapter 10, were doubting whether Saul would really be their king and whether he would function effectively. So they were doubting his ability. And you know that God has to prove to people when they doubt your ability, especially if he has chosen you, he will make things right. Don't worry about it, he'll make things right. So in this challenge that comes, we see that the battle and the threat of the threat of their eyes being gouged out, their right eye, this is what made the Israelites appeal to the help in the town of Saul, Gibeah of Saul. The messengers went to Gibeah of Saul, and guess what? Saul was in the farm, busy laboring on his other duties. And when he had it, the Spirit of God came upon him, and his anger was greatly aroused. The Lord will make you upset about some things. Oh, yes, He will make you so mad so that you get to do something about it. And it's the Spirit of God, notice, that makes us upset about some things so that we would do and lead the effort against that thing. And so he calls out, look at that. He breaks yokes, the yoke of his cattle, and he sends it out in all the nation and says, "This is what will be done to your oxen if you don't respond to your property." And guess what? The numbers, people turn out in numbers, led by the Spirit of God. He does this. He doesn't do it out of his own will. Ponce is in response to Saul's response. So how do you respond? Do you respond, or do you, according to the Spirit of God, or do you suppress the Spirit of God when He wants to use you to do something? Tomorrow by this time, they sent back the word and they said, tomorrow by this time, by the time the sun is hot, you shall have help. And those that turned out were 9,000 from the tribe of Judah. So the next day, the very next day after the response from the people, they went to battle. And it says that the, that the Ammonites were killed until the heat of day. And those that survived were scattered. And it was clear that the Israelites had won the battle and that the authority of Saul had been established. Yep, and everybody who doubted it now could no longer fight the decision of God. So they made it official that Saul was the king. It was now official in this place, Gilgal. So, whatever the Lord starts out, He will establish. And if He's using you to start something, He will establish it. Don't you worry about that. And the Lord will make sure that His enemies are defeated. And if He's using you to defeat His enemies and the things that displease Him, hearken to His voice. Do not turn back. Do what you gotta do. Okay? So we'll see you in chapter 12 coming up.